Hey everyone, welcome back. So it's been a couple weeks again, but let's talk about all the stuff that I've watched, and I have watched a lot, way more than I think I have in the last couple videos of like the weekly catch ups of what I've been watching. Um, so let's get started. The first thing I rewatched, and this is part of the last drive-in with Joe Bob Briggs, was Slaughterhouse, the 1989 slasher, or is it 87? It's one of the two, but it is a slasher like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where um, there is a farm that where they make meat. They kill animals, and there's this young son who is insane, and the father of the company is having trouble keeping this meat factory up because of growing changes in the world. And it's interesting because this movie was kind of ahead of its time in terms of talking about how this character does not want to be part of the modern world. The dad, he doesn't want to be a part of this crazy new modern world where everybody knows everything about you. And little did he know that 2022 right now would be way worse than 1987 or 1989 or whatever the hell year this was made. But I thought that was interesting, showing that in that movie. That's honestly one of the only memorable things about Slaughterhouse, because Slaughterhouse is pretty forgettable to me. I've seen it twice. I own it. I blindly bought the Vinegar Syndrome release, which I was fine buying it. I didn't regret buying it, but I just think it's kind of a boring movie. It has some kills that are fun. It's got some funny, wacky music. I do remember the music for Slaughterhouse. I think the wacky music is entertaining. But really, if I had anything else to say, not really anything at all. This movie is just kind of boring. Um, then I rewatched Morbius, which came out on digital and 4K Blu-ray. I bought the 4K because I just have all the Spider-Man and Spider-Man-ish things. So of course I bought the 4K, and I got the nice Best Buy Steelbook as well that they released. But Morbius, it is the second time I have watched it. Morbius, if anybody doesn't know, is about the vampire that Jared Leto plays, a vampire or a guy who becomes a vampire and has to struggle between being a good vampire and a bad vampire. And this is the third Sony movie in the Sony verse where you had Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, which were both, I think, pretty entertaining, to be honest. I actually liked Venom 2 more than Venom 1 because it had a better villain with Woody Harrelson. But the Venom movies I enjoyed. So going into Morbius, before the movie came out, and I saw it in the theater, and I saw it just, again, this is the rewatch, but looking at Morbius as a whole, because whenever the movie came out, it was trashed and lambasted with, like, all of these people bandwagoning online, like, oh, it's the worst movie ever, it's the worst thing ever, and I'm watching this movie again for the second time, and honestly, I don't think this is easily not the worst movie ever made. This movie was, I thought, pretty okay. It's very, very unimaginative. That's, I think, the biggest problem I think most people have with this movie, and I can completely see why. I can agree with people that this is a very unimaginative movie because it is exactly the story you expect. It's exactly where the characters go, what they do. It's literally just a movie that you know from start to finish what's going to happen. And most movies by definition are that, but this movie does not have enough cleverness to make the story, no matter how bland it is, be interesting. And I'm not going to say that I disliked it, because honestly I thought, despite the story being bland, I thought that it was kind of entertaining. I didn't hate it. It's definitely not as fun as, like, Venom 2, if I had to compare between the three Sonyverse movies. Venom 2, I think, is my favorite out of the three, and then this movie, and then the first Venom. And I give this movie a little bit over the first Venom because the villain in this is way better than the first Venom. The villain, Riz Ahmed's character in that first Venom, was so boring and so generic. And this movie is generic and boring, the Morbius, but I liked Matt Smith as the villain. I thought he was really memorable, and I thought he and Woody Harrelson in Venom 2, like, Sony, no matter with all the faults people have with the Sony movies, like, these villains, I think, are interesting for the most part, besides Riz Ahmed's villain in Venom 1. But these other two villains I think are interesting. And Matt Smith, I have not seen Doctor Who, so I've barely seen him in anything, but I thought he was pretty good in this. I really liked him as the villain. I thought he was entertaining and fun, and he had goofy moments, but the goofiness I felt was kind of memorable to it. Jared Leto in this is extremely toned down, and I kind of like that because Jared Leto in most movies is extremely over the top, and in this one, or not extremely over the top, he's always eccentric, I guess, is what I was trying to explain. But Jared Leto I liked in this because it is kind of a boring role for him, but I thought that it was interesting seeing him in a different light, because usually in movies he's usually more eccentric than this, and I thought it was just interesting seeing a different side of him. And I haven't seen every Jared Leto movie, but most of the Jared Leto movies I see, he's pretty over the top or eccentric. But Morbius, like I said, it's not the worst thing ever made. Believe me. Like, if most of those people online, in my opinion, that bandwagon on these saying this is the worst movie ever, see 2 movies a year and say, oh, this is the worst kind of thing. And I could see that if you saw 2 movies a year and this was one of them. You know what I mean? But yeah, Morbius, the end credits, I guess I won't spoil them here, are still kind of confusing because it's like, well, this wasn't really established with what happened in No Way Home, but it's connected to No Way Home, and it's weird, but I do want to see where Sony's going to go with this, because they now have that play box of the MCU as well. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go with that. And then the next movie I watched was Tenebrae, a rewatch, Dario Argento's Tenebrae, from 1982. And it was on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In episode as well, since he just did that recently. Tenebrae is about a writer who is being in connection with all these killings going around this area. And Tenebrae on rewatch is so weird because Dario Argento movies, I really love or like a lot of them that I've seen. I love Suspiria. I love Deep Red. I really liked Opera. Phenomena, I liked. And Tenebrae, it's weird because I like this movie. I think it's got some great gore in it. There's some excellent, beautiful gore, and it does a good job contrasting with white visuals, like white walls, and then somebody gets their arm chopped off and it red blood splatters over the white wall. I think that that's cool, and visually this movie is great, but I honestly think this is one of the most uninteresting stories for Argento. And I do love Argento's usual, murder mysteries of, who is this person doing this and why? And I really like, usually, the reason. And this one, I watched it a couple weeks ago, and I honestly kind of forgot again what the killer's motivations were. It's just one of those more forgettable ones. But in terms of visuals, in terms of gore, this one's great. But in terms of the story, I just didn't care. Or even remember it, to be honest. But it's not to say it's bad or anything. I just don't think Tenebrae is one that I love the most in terms of the other movies that people talk about with Argento movies. And then, on a whim, I rewatched Scary Movie, the first Scary Movie from 2000. Of course, people know what this is. It's parodies Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and all the other horror movies of the time, Blair Witch Project. It is basically the plot of Scream with a couple different elements added into it. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer, there's one scene where it shows them, like in I Know What You Did Last Summer, where they accidentally kill a guy, and then he's out for revenge, this time to get him a year later. Scary Movie, I think, is genuinely one of my favorite comedies, the first Scary Movie. I loved it. I thought that all the jokes really landed. And I haven't watched this movie in years, and I've seen it so many times. I love this movie, but it is so great. The opening with Carmen Electra as Drew Decker, parodying Drew Barrymore's character Casey Becker from Scream, is great. I love that whole opening scene. I love all the dumb characters. They're all so fun. Cindy is such a fun character on a Ferris Plays. I like how there's Gail Weathers' character is called Gail Hailstorm in this, and she has funny lines. There's one line where she says to Kenny, hold on to my gum, and she spits her gum out, and he tries to grab her gum from a distance. That's funny. And I like how Cindy is the dumb main character, but she's extremely dumb, and it Anna Faris does a good job of portraying that. It's weird to say that, and it's not. I'm not trying to say it as an offensive to her, but I think that she plays the role really well. She's really funny, um, and all these other side characters are great. You've got Ray, who is one of the Wayans brothers. I forgot which one. Is it Marlon or Sean? But and it's also directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans, by the way. So it's all Wayans brothers connected, and they're all great in this, directing wise. And the two, Marlon and Sean, are great in this movie. I think Ray is hilarious because he's the boyfriend who's obviously gay, but they say that he's not, and he does extremely gay things, and that's the joke, and it's funny. I like that, and I liked the character. What's her name from American Pie? Alice? No, what is her name? But the Buffy, the hot one, the hot girl. She, I think, is really funny too because she's just so unapologetically mean and just pushy to everybody, and I like that. And I like how these archetypes in this movie, like Cindy's the dumb one, Buffy's the rude one, Ray's the gay one, Brenda's the annoying one. Like, all these characters are really hilarious, and they all have cliches that I think are really good. My favorite scene probably in the movie, besides the opening, is the scene that parodies Scream 2, where Brenda is killed in the movie theater, but it's because she won't shut up, and she spoils the plot on the phone. She talks on the phone, she records the movie, she screams out loud, she's eating chicken wings. It's genuinely funny, and I love that scene, and I loved I really do love the first Scary Movie. I think it's fantastic. Definitely very much so like the movie Airplane. Airplane's a tiny bit better, though, of course, but I think this is a really good comedy, and I really do enjoy it. It's just a really fun, entertaining sequel. Or, I mean, not sequel. It's a really fun, entertaining spoof. And sequel is on my mind because I want to rewatch the other ones soon, because I do remember loving the second one, and the third and fourth one I remember liking. The fifth one I remember hating, Scary Movie 5. I watched that once and couldn't stand it. So I might watch that again, but I don't know. But the first four I do really enjoy. So yeah, Scary Movie. And then another one I watched was Joe Bob Briggs' Last Drive-In. The Monster Club, which was from, I don't know what year it was. I honestly can't remember. And it's basically an anthology story set in this Monster Club where it's Christopher Lee, and he's telling these stories about creepy things that happen with these three anthologies. And I thought that they were really good, but honestly, it's been a couple weeks, maybe even like 3 weeks since I've seen this, so I'm kind of forgetting about the Monster Club, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. Sorry, there's not much else I could say about it. And then a theatrical release I went and saw was Lightyear, which is the spin-off of the Toy Story franchise, where it's about the Buzz Lightyear, the astronaut that created the Buzz Lightyear toy. And Lightyear is interesting because I love all four Toy Story movies. I think they're some of the best movies ever. I think they're masterpieces, all four of them. I love all four of the Toy Story movies. Lightyear is not that. It's not bad. I do like it a lot, but it's extremely cliched. It is basically every cliche of Star Wars, Star Trek, and the movie Interstellar. But I thought these characters were endearing. I thought that they were fun. I thought that the plot of it was, like I said, a rehash of most of these space movies like Star Wars, Star Trek, Interstellar. But I thought that the characters were endearing enough where I did like them. I did think Chris Evans did a good job as Buzz Lightyear, but it's hard to say with Tim Allen not being there, because Tim Allen, to me, he has such great comedic timing. And I know that this is a different kind of Buzz Lightyear. It's not trying to be a comedy. He's not trying to be a dumb character. This character is just trying to be what he actually is. And Buzz Lightyear, Tim Allen's version, is a toy that's not very smart and doesn't realize that he's a toy. Like, it's different, of course, but I think that Chris Evans does a good job in the voice role. And it reminds me of Tim Allen, like if Tim Allen didn't play a dumb character, because that's what his character is supposed to be in the Toy Story movies. So I also really like Socks the Cat. That was one of my favorite things about the movie. It's not a movie that's memorable for its story. The characters are okay. They're kind of endearing. Visuals are great, like usual, but it's definitely a step down in terms of uniqueness for Pixar. There's one thing that I enjoyed that I thought was unique in a way, but it kind of just is like other space movies where the villain Zurg has more fleshed out about him than you would have expected from this movie. Like, he's definitely a villain that's different than what I expected. And I won't say what it is, but I like that. But it's something that you've seen before in other space movies. And I won't say what it is, but it's just cliche. It's a cliched villain reveal thing, but like I did like it, if that makes sense. But yeah, Lightyear, not very memorable for the story, but I thought it was fun. I still enjoyed it. Then I watched for the first time Hellbender, which was on again the last drive-in, and I'm doing these in order, so that's why I'm not talking about each last drive-in app. This is in order of how I watch these movies. Hellbender was about a young witch and her mom witch, and the mom witch is trying to control the young daughter witch from going crazy and killing everybody. It's a kind of reverse Carrie, is how Joe Bob put it, and I completely agree with that, where it is this mom is trying to stop this power from happening. Or no, she's trying to get this to happen, where like she's gonna go crazy, but she's trying to get her to that point, the daughter witch. This movie was pretty visually really cool, but it was just kind of forgettable in the story, honestly. I don't remember much about it. And then I rewatched Drag Me to Hell, which I was hanging out with a friend, and friend had never seen this before, so I'm like, we're gonna watch this. Drag Me to Hell is the Sam Raimi movie, of course, from 2009, I think, or 2008, one of the two, where Alison Lohman plays this character who is works at a bank, and she is about to get a promotion, but she has to put her foot down and be assertive, and she's not assertive. She's a nice girl, and she wants to not cause any conflict, but if she doesn't be assertive, she's not going to get this manager position that she wants. She's getting the smarmy guy next to her desk is going to get it, and she is aggressive and tells this gross old lady that I'm not going to give you a third loan on your house. The bank's not going to give you any more time. And then she gets cursed. Alison Lohman's character gets cursed, and now she's cursed to be doomed to taken to hell. And I love this movie on rewatch. This movie is fantastic, and it is so fun. Again, I love that Alison Lohman's character, I'm blanking on her name, in the movie. Alison Lohman's character is fantastic, as she is such an endearing, sympathetic character, and you feel so horrible for her that she doesn't ever get what she wants when she tries to do the right thing, and she makes one mistake, and then she gets dragged to hell. I think that's awesome and so funny. The visuals in this, even though it's more CG than old Sam Raimi CG, like our old Sam Raimi practical effects, this is way more CG, but it's got some practical effects, of course, but the CG I think is really good and really funny and cartoonish in a way where it fits in this universe. You get a lot of the character Alison Lohman getting vomit thrown up on her face, or getting mud thrown on her face, or stuff like that, where like she just suffers through this whole movie, and it's so good and it's just so funny and so entertaining. Love Drag Me to Hell. I think that's a great one. I'm glad I rewatched that. And then with a friend, I also rewatched The Shining, the 1980s Stephen King adaptation that Stanley Kubrick directed. And I have seen this, of course, so many times. I've seen The Shining well, like 10 or so times, I'm assuming, throughout my life so far. I really love it. I think it's great. I have not read the book The Shining, and I've heard people say that the book's better or the book is totally different. And Stanley Kubrick, I'm assuming, just wanted to make this movie his own. He wanted to do this movie and do what he wanted to do with it. And there is a Shining like TV movie that was like 6 hours long that was apparently more similar to the book, which I have not seen, and I think I will watch sometime. I just haven't had the chance. But this version of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, or this version of The Shining, was the only one I know. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. Stanley Kubrick just knew what to do with films. Jack Nicholson, fantastic. Shelley Duvall is, of course, fantastic. Danny, I forgot what the kid's name is, does a great job. Whenever he says, Rad Brom, like, that's just so creepy and memorable. The way that Jack Torrance goes mad in this is so well done. It's so good how subtle it starts, and then it just goes insane towards the end of the movie. Jack Nicholson is fantastic. Shelley Duvall is great as well, and even though I hate that she in real life had to suffer from Stanley Kubrick basically treating her like shit to get this role out of her, but it's a fantastic performance. It just really messed her up. So I don't know what to think about that, but I really love everything about The Shining, of course, visually as well. It's fantastic. Of course, The Shining is great. And then I watched for the first time Daughters of Darkness, which is a 1970s lesbian vampire movie. And I watched this on the last drive-in. This is one of those episodes on Amazon Prime that is sometimes available and sometimes not. It depends on if they have the movie in question that is on the show. And now they had the episode and the movie on available. So I watched this. It was like season 1 or whatever. Or, well, it wasn't even season 1. It was like the 24-hour marathon Joe Bob did in 2018, I think, 2017. This movie was pretty forgettable. To me, like, visually it's great, Daughters of Darkness, but I don't remember anything about it. Watched it a couple weeks ago. Really don't remember much. Then these next two are last drive-in episodes as well. But I watched Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker again, and The Baby again. And the topic for that night for the episodes were Crazy Mothers. And Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, also known as Night Watch, is really freaking awesome. I really love Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, and I've seen it before. The plot of Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, which again is such a great title, even though it's great. It's a great title. The plot of that movie, Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, is that there is a character named Aunt Cheryl, and she has a nephew who lives with her after his parents mysteriously die, and she has a fixation on him where she doesn't want him to leave, and she will do anything, even kill people, to keep him there. And this movie is really intense and just really effective. The actress who played Aunt Cheryl, I'm blanking on her name, is scary and terrifying. The movie too, I like that it also does something taboo that like you didn't expect, like this much of a subject matter in this in the 80s, where it's about the main guy character might be gay, but also he's got a girlfriend, so he might be bisexual. But like it's got a lot of that in it, which I was genuinely glad just to see that kind of representation. And also the fact that you look at this movie where these characters, the gay characters in this, are treated like nice people, because whenever these kind of movies were being made with like gay people or trans people, they were always considered off as villains. They weren't ever considered off as good people. And the gym teacher, who's the one who allegedly might have had sex with the main character, he is treated like a nice person, and I usually don't see that with these kind of movies in this time period. So I appreciated that. I just thought that was really cool. I think the movie's really just intense. Like I said, with Aunt Cheryl, that character is terrifying. I just think it's great. I think it's a really fun, I guess, slasher towards the end. It's not completely a slasher, but it's got some good moments of that towards the end. But I really like Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker. And The Baby from the 1970s, I forgot what year. The Baby is about a woman comes over who is going to take care of a baby. And she comes over to meet this woman and her 2 daughters and the baby. And the woman who comes over realizes that the baby is a 20-year-old man dressed like a baby. And he won't talk. He'll just cry and coo like a baby does, but he's 20 or 21. And she has to figure out why this guy is like this when he's 21 years old and he's still a baby. Like, I like this one because this is a movie I've never seen before in terms of, I've seen this movie before, but I've never seen a movie like this ever besides this, where like the plot of this. I think this is very memorable as a movie that I've never really seen before. So I like that. This movie is brutal and unforgiving, and it's not like a slasher or anything, but it's just really creepy movie with like an effective, horrible mom in this. And I don't know what the actress's name is or the character's name is who plays the mom, but she's awesome. This movie also deals with incest as well, family incest, and all the things that make this movie creepy. And I think that I like how unforgiving it is with that. I think that's great. And I won't spoil the ending, but the ending is such a bittersweet, creepy, but happy ending. And I liked it. I thought it was awesome on rewatch. So I think the baby's great. Now, these two movies I rewatched again just on a whim. Spider-Man No Way Home, which I've talked about a billion times on here, and now you talk about that again. Scream 2022, which I've seen a million times. Getting excited for Scream 6, but yeah, I've watched Scream 2022 I think 7 or 8 times now. I think it's fantastic. Then I watched for the first time a movie called Drowning Mona, which stars Danny DeVito, Bette Midler, Neve Campbell, and Jamie Lee Curtis. And it is about Mona, Bette Midler's character, who's this mean, unapologetic lady who's just rude and vicious to everybody. And she gets murdered in the opening credits, or she dies in the opening credits. Like, her brakes on her car don't work, so her car flies off the cliff and she dies. And the whole movie is about Danny DeVito trying to figure out who killed her and why. But it's not as it seems, because the whole town hates her. And you see flashbacks of everybody dealing with how horrible Bette Midler's character Mona was to them. And with a plot like that, you would have expected me to like this one, but no, I thought this one was pretty bad. This movie is pretty unfunny. I didn't really... It's sad because all these people that are in the movie I really enjoy in other things, but man, did not work for any of these characters for me. I didn't think the jokes landed at all. I thought it was awkward to be awkward, and it just didn't do anything for me. So, I'm sad to say that, but yeah, Drowning Mona didn't do anything for me at all. And then I watched this with some of my family, Brother Bear, which I've seen before a dozen times when I was a kid. The Disney movie about the man who turns into a bear after accidentally killing the bear's mother, and then of course they go on a journey together. The man turned bear and the little cub that was the mom. That was the cub and the mom that was killed. This movie has excellent music. Phil Collins has some of my favorite musical scores ever, or musical songs ever. But the story's fine for Brother Bear. Visually, it's really cool, but the music is definitely the highlight for me for this one. I've seen it so many times. It's kind of like I just have seen it enough now where I'm like, eh. And then I watched John Wick 3, Parabellum, for the first time, which I've seen the first two John Wick movies. I think they're good. I do like the first John Wick the most, then probably this one, then the second one. Now, this John Wick 3 is John Wick on the run the whole movie because of what happened at the end of the second movie. And I'll say this movie has some excellent gore and violence in it. It's so fun. There's so many moments like the first two movies where you're just like, holy shit, like it just gets you cringing in a good way because it's so intense with all the violence in these three movies. And this one is no exception. I thought this was good. I like seeing Halle Berry in it, but I didn't realize that she wouldn't be in the whole movie. I thought she'd be in it more, but it makes sense in the story. But I'm like, man, I thought I would have seen more of her. Seeing Lawrence Fishburne back was great. Keanu Reeves, like usual, is great. Really not much else to say about John Wick 3. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Then this is a Last Drive-In episode. The Stepfather, which is, of course, the 1987 Terry O'Quinn horror movie directed by Joseph Rubin, who also directed The Good Son and Sleeping with the Enemy. And the Stepfather is about a guy who goes and becomes a stepfather to a family, then kills them all off, then hides his trail, and then goes to a new family. And this time he goes to a new family where Jill Sholin, is that how you pronounce her last name? And Shelley Hack are the mom and the daughter. And they start to realize that he's more creepier than they expect. And I'll say this about The Stepfather. It's a movie that I've seen a lot. I really dig The Stepfather because Terry O'Quinn is excellent in this movie. And the second one. I really like the second one too as well. But Terry O'Quinn is definitely the best thing about this movie. He's excellent. He's creepy. He's disturbing. He really creeps me out. I think Terry O'Quinn's awesome. I think that the movie is not, it's not the best in terms of like the story, because a lot of it's just kind of like you've got a guy who's trying to find Terry O'Quinn's character after his last, like he was the brother of like a sister who was part of the family that he killed or something, and there's a subplot with that. There's a subplot with the daughter. Um, there's a subplot with the mom being very dumb, and it's not very tight on the story. But Terry O'Quinn is excellent in it, and that's easily the best thing about it. And I do like the movie. I think the movie's entertaining. It's creepy. It's effective. This and part 2 I think are great. Part 3 I remember liking too, even though it didn't have Terry O'Quinn in it. Don't remember liking the remake, but I watched that whenever that came out in 2008, like once, so I don't remember much about it at all. But The Stepfather's great in terms of Terry O'Quinn. And then on a whim, I watched the original Evil Dead with a friend again. I've seen the original Evil Dead a lot. Sam Raimi, because we watched Drag Me to Hell. I told my friend, like, you're gonna watch the Evil Dead. You're gonna watch this one because Evil Dead is really awesome, and it's starting Sam Raimi's roots in terms of creepy horror comedies. And the original Evil Dead, like, still blows me away. Like, it's just so cool with the effects. I love the fact that it's in full darkness in a way where you don't see in a lot of movies, where most of the movie is in complete darkness, not movie darkness. And I like that with this low budget, it makes the movie better. The effects in it are great as well. They're really fun as well. I like how pulpy it is with the violence. The blood looks like ketchup, and it's just funny to see that. When these characters get possessed, they're really, really creepy, and they're really, really funny. And it gives you such a good, bad feeling about these characters whenever they're possessed. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, they're just like, you don't know what's gonna happen. I think it's great. It's so cliched in a great way, the original Evil Dead. Like, it's so fun with all these cliches where it's what you expect from this kind of movie. All these characters make dumb decisions, but it is so incredibly entertaining. And that's what I love about Sam Raimi with these kind of movies he does. Like, it's so entertaining despite that fact that you're going to be like, oh, this is very cliched, even for 1979. But still, I think it's fantastic. I love the original Evil Dead. And I love, too, that right whenever I watched the movie a day later, they announced the Evil Dead remake on 4K and Army of Darkness on 4K from Scream Factory. So I'm definitely going to get those one day whenever they come out. I think they come out in, like, September. But I'll definitely rewatch the rest of the franchise, too, because those ones I really like as well. I think all 4 of the Evil Dead movies are great. And then I watched another Last Drive-In episode with Joe Bob Briggs. I watched Uncle Sam for the first time, and Uncle Sam was not the movie I expected. It's directed by William Lustig, who did Maniac and Maniac Cop, and I really love those movies. And it's directed by Larry Cohen, who did, like, The Stuff and It's Alive, and a lot of stuff I really like from Larry Cohen, who was the writer in this. And this movie, the basic plot is that a kid has his Uncle Sam, and he's been dead, and he comes back to life and starts killing everybody. And the movie plays it so straight for a long time, where it feels like a serious drama, that it becomes pretty boring. And whenever it gets to the kills are okay, but, like, they're not really shown a lot. And it feels so out of place tonally, like, and not in a way where I enjoyed it. And I haven't seen that many 4th of July horror movies. I mean, of course, Jaws, yeah, but, like, I haven't seen that many other 4th of July horror movies. So it's weird to see this one where I'm like, man, I hope I like this one. And I really didn't love it. I thought it was just not very entertaining, unfortunately. It didn't feel that much like William Lustig directed this, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't really feel like that. And this came out in the 90s, too, which I guess I'm kind of biased because it's not 80s slasher, so maybe that's why. But it feels like it's a 90s movie. It doesn't have the grittiness of the 80s. So that's an unfortunate thing for it that I wish that they had. Really, there's not much else I can say about Uncle Sam. It's not, I didn't like it that much. I hear people love it. That's fine. I didn't love it that much. Then I rewatched, because I got the Scream Factory 4Ks recently, of Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. And if you don't know what those are, Happy Death Day from 2017 is about a character named Tree, who is a snooty girl who lives at college, and she is rude and unapologetically rude to everybody, and then she gets killed, but then she wakes up the same day, and she has to relive her death every time, like Groundhog Day, until she finds out who the killer is. And I really, really love both of these Happy Death Day movies. Happy Death Day 2 is the same about Tree and about these characters, but also there's an alternate dimension where she has to relive dying over and over again like the first one. But that one as well is still really memorable and really fun, even though it's the same as the first movie, and I like that. Directed by Christopher Landon, who also directed Freaky, which I really liked. Great. And I have not seen Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which I heard bombed, but I haven't seen it. I don't know critically how it was, but I'll have to see it to see how I feel about it. I've seen the Paranormal Activities, of course, that he's been involved in, but I really like him as a director, and I love these two movies, and I love the fact that these movies just have such heart to them. Both of the Happy Death Day movies, even Freaky has heart to it too. But the main character Tree it's great because it's about, like I said, it's like Groundhog Day where you got to relive the same day over and over again. But with this instance, the character Tree is getting killed by a murderer in a baby mask, and she's got to figure out who the killer is. And she starts as a snooty, horrible person, and then as the movie goes along, she realizes how horrible a person she is, and she becomes better for herself and becomes a better person. And I'm just a sucker for those types of movies. I'm just a sucker for that. I love those types of movies where you care about the characters, you like to see where they go, you like to see their evolution, and this one just does a great job of it. It's very well written, it's very interesting. I really dig it, and the second one I think is great as well. And the second one elaborates even more on the fact that it's another dimension. So it's like Tree also has to deal with another reality and different things that are different there, like which reality should she choose, kind of thing. And I just really like that, and I really hope we get a Happy Death Day 3, because it's unfortunate the second one did not do well enough in theaters, where Universal kind of, I guess, scrapped sequel plans right now, or did for a while. But I feel like they're gonna do one. I hope so. I hope they connected to Freaky, because again, those are both directed by Christopher Landon, and they both feel very similar. Of course, they're similar, and they're also written by Michael Kennedy, the same guy who wrote both of them. And I really liked both of these Happy Death Day movies. I really love them, so I hope we get a sequel. I do hope it connects to Freaky as well, because people keep saying it's going to connect to Freaky. But just very endearing, Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. They're both great. I love the titles as well. They're so fun. And then the last two things I'm going to talk about are the TV shows I've been watching. So I watched Obi-Wan. Of course, you know what it is, Disney Plus. 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan is in hiding. Darth Vader figures out he's alive. They both figure out who they are. Like, Obi-Wan figures out it's Anakin. This was fantastic in a lot of ways. It's not the best in the story department, but the last episode of Obi-Wan blew me away, because I'm just such a fan of the prequels. I'm such a fan of these characters that this feels like a movie. This show evolves these characters even more than you expect in the last episode of Obi-Wan, and I just was blown away by it. I really loved episode 5 as well. All the episodes were good, but I thought episode 5 and 6 were my favorite, of course. I really liked the characters. All the new characters were fine. They were good. Reva, I liked. I liked where she went with her character, but I felt like she had to say some corny things, unfortunately, the actress. Which is a shame, because that actress is getting... Oh, I guess I shouldn't even mention this, because I don't want to have trolls, mention this, but how she was getting all these racist comments, which are horrible. But I'm one of those people that I don't want to keep fueling the fire. I don't want to have these trolls say stupid stuff, so I shouldn't have even mentioned that on here, because I'm definitely a fan of whenever somebody says something horrible, you shouldn't give them the limelight, especially those racist trolls that were mean to her. So it's unfortunate, but I think she's fine in the show. I think that she just has some corny lines that are not her fault. But I thought she was good. I liked her character, and I liked, of course, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. That back and forth in the last episode was fantastic. The fight was fantastic. Where these characters went was fantastic. I loved Obi-Wan in that way. It's not the best story, but it's still really good, especially with the Anakin Obi-Wan stuff. That's my favorite, of course. Like, you wouldn't expect anything else, really. That's, of course, my favorite. And then, of course, this week, Stranger Things 4 Part 2 came out. So the last 2 episodes, which was 4 hours in itself. Episode 8 was an hour and a half. Episode 9 was 2.5 hours. So I was like, holy shit. So I watched both of them in the same day. Really great last episodes. I thought they were awesome. I really liked where they went with these characters. I really dug it. I thought it was epic. It was visually great. It made me honestly tear up towards the end. I thought it was really effective with these characters. Stranger Things is a series that I always forget until it comes out every year how good it is, because I watch the season and each season I'm like, this is really good, and then I kind of forget about it. Then whenever the new season comes out, I'm like, wow, I keep forgetting how great this is. And this was a great season. I really loved Stranger Things 4. No spoilers, but it definitely ended in a way where it's setting up something big. And there's only going to be 5 seasons. They said that there's only 5 seasons of the Duffer Brothers. So I'm excited for the next season. That'll be the last one. Hopefully it'll be just next year when it comes out. But I'm pumped for it. I really like this last season. Characters for me I really, really enjoyed were Max and Robin. Robin was really funny. Max, I thought, gave a lot of the emotional core of the show. I liked all the characters again, seeing them again. It's weird, the Joyce and Hopper stuff I liked, but I didn't love as much. It just felt like it was good to see them, and it was great to see them. I do like those characters and actors, but I felt like they were the less interesting story out of the 2 or 3, because all these characters are split up. But Stranger Things 4 Part 2 was great, and I still really enjoyed it, despite minor qualms of it. I thought it was still really entertaining and really fun, and I can't wait for Season 5 to see how it ends. Hopefully they don't screw it up, but they haven't so far, so I hope not, for me at least. But that is it for all the movies and TV shows I've been watching. There's other TV shows I've randomly been watching, but those are the ones that I finished, Stranger Things and Obi-Wan. So a lot of movies, like I said, like last time. I'll do another video in the next week or so of other things I've watched. So I'm rambling on. That's it for today. See you guys later. Take care.